Hi, I'm Jess. Thanks so much for purchasing the art kit. Come along with me as we explore the primary colors, then create a tiny landscape together. Let's get started. Inside your art kit is everything you need to begin creating mini gouache paintings. It's small, simple, and designed to help you slow down, mix color, and notice the little things around you. Let's take a look inside. You'll find 4 small pots of paint, red, blue, and yellow, the 3 primary colors, as well as white. These 3, along with white, can be mixed to create nearly every color you see in the landscape. Gouache is a water-based paint similar to watercolor, but more opaque. It dries with a beautiful matte finish and can be reactivated with water at any time, even after it's dry. That's one of the reasons I love it. It's forgiving, playful, and easy to layer. If your paint ever dries out in the pots, you can just reactivate it using water. You'll also find 3 of my favorite paintbrushes, each a little different in shape and size. 2 small round brushes and a 1/2-inch flat brush. There is a pencil for sketching your composition. And in the little paper bundle is a mini color wheel to explore the color mixing with, and 10 pieces of my favorite Arches watercolor paper to create your mini paintings on. I've included both hot press and cold press. Hot press is smooth to the touch, and cold press is textured. Choose whichever you'd like for the landscape painting you're going to paint today. I'm going to use hot press. And then in the back here, there's the shiny palette paper for mixing your colors. And there is some washi tape, which can be used to tape down your paper and hold it in place. You will also see a frame, which will hold your 2x3-inch painting when you're finished. I get these frames at Michael's. I think they're so cute with the little mini mat. Underneath the frame, you will see a piece of cardboard here. This is to attach your palette onto with the washi tape, as well as paint on top of, so you protect your surface and you can paint right to the edges of your paper. There's also a piece of paper towel under here. The only thing you'll need to grab from home is a cup to fill with water to paint with and to clean your brushes. I have a little jar. Everything here is meant to make the process feel approachable, a quiet moment of creativity that fits right into the palm of your hand. So here we're going to start with the mini color wheel, and I'm just going to use a small round brush to paint this since it's so tiny. And we'll need a piece of palette paper. This exercise is not about being perfect, it's just about exploring color, slowing down, learning how the paint works. So I'm just going to tape the palette paper down with some washi tape. The color wheel is such a simple tool, but it teaches us almost everything we need to know about mixing and balance. I'm just going to leave the color wheel loose so I can turn it around, and we'll just put white away so we just have our 3 primary colors. And we'll just open them up. These colors can't be made by mixing anything else. They're pure. They're the foundation for every painting you'll ever make. And with gouache, just a little goes a long way. I'm going to get some paper towel ready, and I'm going to wet my brush. And I'm going to start with yellow. Just dipping my brush right into the pot. And you'll notice how I just keep adding water to my brush. I just want the paint to be nice and creamy, and we'll just start by filling in one of these triangles in the center of the wheel. You'll see how I spin my brush a little bit when I dip it in the paint, and that just makes my point nicer. And you'll see I just keep adding water, spinning my wheel around to get into the different corners. And now I'll just rinse my brush off. And I'll go into blue. You could use a palette knife to put your paint on the palette here, but I just use my brush. And I'm going to stack these paints one on top of another. Here we go. We're just going to put the blue in another triangle in the center. I use a lot of blue in my paintings. This blue is called cyan. And now I'll rinse the brush off, and the water's turned green. There's color theory happening everywhere. And now we'll go into the red. I always find red is a very, very pigment dense color, so a little bit goes a long way with red. And now the last triangle in the center. And you don't have to fill these in perfectly. It's just an exercise. And we'll rinse our brush off again. And now we're going to start in with the secondary colors. These are the ones that live between the primaries. So we're going to start with yellow and blue. So I'm just going to use the paint right in between, or the area right in between these two colors, and I'm just going to mix them together and we get green. And then I'm going to fill this green into the space right above the blue and the yellow. You'll notice each mix is unique. Some will lean warm, others cool. That's the beauty of it. You let the colors guide you. Adjust, explore, watch how they change. Even small differences in the mix can shift the feeling entirely, and that's part of the fun of this. Everyone's color wheel is going to look slightly different. So now we're going to wash our brush off and blot it on the paper towel. And we'll go in and we'll mix the yellow and the red. I'm going to pull a little bit more yellow down to where the red is. and start mixing. And we've got orange. And you'll see me double dipping here. I'm bad for this. And we'll fill in the orange right under the yellow and red here. If you ever feel the paint going across the paper dry, you just need to add more water. So this is a good exercise just into knowing how much water to add to your paint. There we go. So there's orange. We'll wash our brush off. And the last one is blue and red. And I can just mix right in between these two colors here. And that makes purple. So we'll talk a little bit here about complementary colors. And these are the colors that are across from each other on the color wheel. So red and green, blue and orange, yellow and purple. And when they sit beside each other, they almost vibrate, each one making the other appear more vivid. But when you mix them together, they do the opposite. They soften each other, creating neutral tones and grays. And that's how we balance intensity, by mixing opposites. And now we'll wash our brush off again. You can see the water's turned kind of gray. And we're going to mix the tertiary colors. So these are the colors that are sort of in between. So we're going to make a yellow green. So this is a green that just has more yellow in it. And it will look more like lime. Clean our brush, and the next one we will do is blue green. So we will just take our green, we'll dip our brush into the blue and just add a little bit more blue into our original green. And this color comes out a little more teal. My art teacher in high school, he used to really drill the color wheel into us every year. We'd get a quiz on color theory, and he said that we would thank him later, which I do. Because now I know how to mix any color. we'll clean our brush off here and we will make a yellow-orange. A little more water. Now we're going to mix a red-orange. So just adding more red into our original orange. And I'll also talk, here we're going to do red, purple. I'm also going to talk here a little bit about analogous colors. And these are colors that sit beside each other on the color wheel. Colors like blue, blue-green, and green, they share a similar hue, so they naturally blend in harmony. They're beautiful for calm skies, reflections, gentle transitions. Now we have our last color to fill in on the wheel, which is blue-purple. So you'll remember the primary colors in the middle, this or in the very center of the circle. The next layer out are the secondary colors, and the last layer on the outside are the tertiary colors. Then you have complementary colors across from each other on the color wheel, and analogous colors, which are beside each other on the color wheel. Whoops. Clean our brush off here. Now, in the very bottom of our color wheel, you will see 2 squares. And we're going to mix a neutral black using all 3 primary colors. So I'm actually going to just wet my brush and I'm just going to start mixing all the primary colors together. Now I never buy a tube of black gouache. I just don't use it in my paintings, but you will see black in my paintings, but it's a black that I've mixed. It gives you just a richer black, more complex, not so flat, full of depth. You can go more on the blue side or more on the brown side. I like that part of it too. So how light or dark a color appears is called the value. It's what gives our painting shape and contrast. So now I'm going to open the white and we're going to make a gray using this black. Let's go right in the center here. When you squint at an image, you can see its value, where the lights and darks are. This is a very important part in painting. So here we are finishing up our color wheel exercise. And every color you'll ever mix starts right here. Take your time with this part of the process. It's not just technical, it's almost meditative. As you paint, notice what you're drawn to. Notice to which colors make you feel calm, which bring you energy. Okay, so here we are, and we're going to start painting this little mini landscape. My reference image of this was from my Halls Island artist residency, which I did this past summer on beautiful Coshlong Lake. So I'm just going to attach my palette paper, a fresh piece of palette paper, onto the card. It's really important to find images that really mean something to you when you're painting. And I'm just going to select a piece of paper. I'm going to choose the hot press paper, which is the smoother paper. But you can select the cold press if you'd like. I think I'll attach this paper down with a little bit of tape. If you look really closely at a piece of watercolor paper, there is a front and a back. You can tell there's a slight grid sort of pattern when you hold it up in the light. And that's from the paper making process when it was put on a screen. But it doesn't really matter which side of the paper you paint on. I've often painted on the wrong side. This tape isn't super sticky, but it will hold it down enough. And here's our reference. We're just going to start by doing a little sketch of the horizon line. I always start my paintings off with a little bit of a sketch. So we'll just draw the horizon, like where the water ends, and then the tree line. And I'll draw the little island in. And it's not very detailed. Just a little outline. So now I'm going to start with my flat brush, and I'm going to start by painting the sky, and I always paint all my paintings starting with the sky. I'm just going to take a little white, rinse my brush off, and then some blue. I'm going to brush a deeper blue from the top of the page down to about 2/3 of the way. And then I'm going to mix a little more white in to create a lighter blue and paint this from there down to the horizon. That's my end goal. A little ombre effect. So you'll see I keep adding more blue. Now I double dip. I know you shouldn't, but I do. I try and clean the paint up as I go though. So I'm going to add some more blue. I'm looking for the right shade, but even if you don't get the right shade here, at one point you just have to start painting on the paper. But you can always mix the paint again and go right over top. You'll see I keep going right over top, redoing areas. This paper is very strong, so you can go over and over and over again, and it doesn't rip apart or anything. So now I'm just taking a bit of white in the blue, and I'm just going to paint the bottom. And I'm going to start blending it up. You don't have to be too exact on the horizon line here because we'll be painting that in later. So I'm just going to wash my brush here. And now I'm going to blend those two lines together, just taking the original blue. Go back and forth. And I'm just taking a little more white and a little more blue. I just wanted it a bit darker at the top here. So you can see I'm just going in a little darker and blending it down. And since we have this blue mixed, let's just start painting the water in as well, since it's a reflection of the sky. And it's just mirroring what we see on the top. Add a little bit more white in. It'll be light closer to the bottom of the tree line. Just going in pretty dark in the bottom here now. And I'll soften it, bring some of that into the sky. So this is the nice play of back and forth. Go on the lighter side here and just bring it right up. And I'm blending it softly together. While the paint's still wet, it's easier to blend the two together. You can see how much time you can spend even if the painting's little. I spend just as much time on one of these little paintings sometimes as I spend on a bigger one. A little more white, and I'm just going to put the white right onto the painting and blend it in that way, pulling it down. And you can just use a wet brush on gouache too, since it reactivates with water. So I'm just using a wet brush to smooth out the sky. And I think this play with going back and forth is what gives my paintings a lot of depth. The subtle layers overlapping one another really show through. You can see I'm going right over the edges of the paper so it covers the whole thing. That's how I paint these small mini ones. Now I'm going to put my flat brush down. I'm going to grab one of my smaller brushes. And we're going to start painting the clouds at the horizon line, the really dark silhouette clouds. And peeking through is the sunset. But since I have blue already on my palette here, I thought I would start with that. And I'm just putting some blue and some red to make a deep purple, but I would say it's more a blue purple. I want it really dark. It's almost black. And then I'm going to add a touch of white into it, just to lighten it a bit. And when I'm painting this, I'm going to leave little gaps in the clouds, and that is where the sun is going to come through later. I also want to talk about every painting process is always different, but a lot of the time there is a part in the process where it looks like your painting isn't going to work. And I find that if you make it past this point and keep pushing yourself, you'll be able to resolve the problems or get your painting to a point that you're able to like it. But it's hard. It makes you want to give up sometimes. That's why I like these small paintings. There's not a lot of commitment to them. You can usually paint one in about an hour. So just follow along with me here. And don't try and copy exactly what I'm doing. Every time, everyone's painting will be different, a little bit different, and you can make it your own. So I'm just going to wash my brush off here, and I'm going to grab some white, and I want to start painting in some of the spots where I want the sun to show through the clouds. So I want to mix some of the sunset yellow, pink. It's like an orangey, pinky yellow. You'll have to play around with the color here. Now, red is really overpowering, so you just want to use a dot of it. And I probably put a little too much here. You want to have a lot of white in this sunset peeking through. And test it out on your paper and you'll know right away, like, I need to add some yellow in now. And I'm just going to choose a few little spots here. Double dipping in the white again. And feel free to change your water at any time, as much as you need. I find the painting so small that I don't need to change it a lot, but sometimes you do. Add a touch more red. A little white. So you'll see the back and forth, and this is the color theory coming into play. And now we're painting a from a reference photo today of a painting, but often these small ones I paint in plein air, which means right in front of what I'm painting outside. And ones like this are really hard because it's a sun setting. So sometimes by the time you get to a certain point in the painting, it's dark. So everything's always changing. Or you'll try and paint this really beautiful, fluffy white cloud sky, and it's changing before your eyes. So it's an interesting way to paint. You sort of capture these little moments in your mind and put them down on the paper. And by the time you look up, it's already different. So this is where we'll just go back and forth, and I'm going to build the clouds up more as I paint. We'll get into a flow where you forget the time that's passed. So you'll see the back and forth here. I'll work in the blue and the pink going back and forth as you start seeing how they play off each other. And you just do this until you're happy with the balance. Softly layering and blending where you need to. Sometimes just with a wet brush. And all these parts, everything that you paint on here, you can go back to at the end, and I usually do that. To balance it. Fix things that you might not like. I hope you'll share your miniature paintings with me online. And I hope to release some more of these little videos for the mini paint kit. I'm just going to go back into the clouds again. And your back and forth will be different than mine. I'm just smoothing some areas out just with a wet brush, blending them together. Keep looking back, stopping every once in a while and just taking a look at what you've done. I'm just going to start brushing in a little more white here at the top of the dark clouds that I've painted in, just to give some more definition between the areas. Lighten some of the pink. Take a look at it from a distance and go back in where I think I might need some more dark. Take some more of this white and just go over some of the highlights in the water where I've brought the pink down, just in some soft horizontal lines, just to highlight it. Adding little details in like this pink is always my most the most fun part of a painting for me. Okay, this is starting to get to where I'm happy with it. I'm just cleaning up above the clouds again. You'll notice when you paint white on top of the sky, sometimes as it dries, it gets darker and it fades away until you almost can't see where the white was. And I'll just use a wet brush here, the wide flat brush, to just even the color out. And now I'm going to mix some more blue, and I'm going to grab some red. And just a touch of yellow, and we're mixing a black now for the land, for the tree line and the island. And you just want to add a touch of yellow. I find this really lightens the color. So if you want it dark, you don't want to add too much yellow, but just a tad. And we're going to get this rich blackish tone. It's a earthy black. And I'll just keep mixing the primaries together until I get the right shade. Sometimes you have to put it looks different on the palette than it does on the paper. So you can always put some down on your paper. It doesn't mean you're committed to it. You can go back in and remix, keep mixing. Double dipping. And I think I'll just switch to the smaller brush here because the area is really small where the tree line and the island are. You'll want your brush really pointed here, so I sort of spin the brush in my fingers. And now I'm just going to start by painting in the tree line first. Even though the tree line and the island kind of blend together, I still want to paint them separately. I find that separates them a bit, even if just subtly. There were so many beautiful sunsets on this lake when I stayed there. It was so quiet at night. One night I was sitting along the shoreline looking out at this exact same point, and a silhouette of a blue heron flew down right in front of me. When you get to this point in a painting, it's where everything really starts coming together. And now I'm just going to add in a little bit of white into the black that I've mixed. And it's going to give this really subtle highlight in the tree line and the island. And I can kind of use this subtle gray, purpley bluey gray to define some of the shapes. It's hard to know when to stop a painting, but usually you just know. Either it feels done or you're just done with painting it. So I always keep my brushes clean. Make sure you wash them at the end. The paint will still come off because it's water soluble, but it'll help them last longer. And when you go to paint again, they'll be ready. So you can see how all these little final details, they're just little tiny, subtle brush strokes that help finish it. And keep taking a step back to look. You can adjust anything at this point that catches your eye. A bit more sunset, a touch more white in the clouds, or a few little reflections in the water. And that's it. A calm little mini landscape. I'm just going to clean up here and put everything back in the box. And just wanted to say that if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe for more mini gouache tutorials to come. And I hope you'll share the paintings that you've done with me. I'd love to see them. And I'm just going to put our painting in the little mini frame. You can use this piece of paper that says your mini art here. You can paint on that one too. You can paint right on top of the writing or on the other side. And I'm just grabbing some tape. And you'll just want to make sure that you line up your horizon line straight here in the frame. And I might want to stick another piece of tape. This tape isn't super sticky. And we also need to sign our painting. I'm just going to sign it with my initials, JT. And that's it. Your calm little landscape in a tiny little frame. And I just want to thank you so much for painting along with me today.